Go. So now I have an alert that tells me, welcome everyone. Welcome to today to your first 365 days in real estate. This is session 3, and today we're going to be covering chapter 6, 7, and 8. And it'll be interesting to hear what you might have drawn from these chapters. And of course, I'm going to share with you, of course, what I drew from the chapters. I'm going to share with you my screen. And so hopefully you can see that. Give me a thumbs up if you can see what I've just shared. Good, because everything changed today somehow, some way. Don't ask me how. And so today in 6, 7, and 8, we're going to skip past the definition of what a mastermind is. I think we all know. Shelly talked about the F word. When I first saw that on the beginning of chapter 6, I wasn't exactly sure what we were about to get into with the book, but it's called the F word, or how I kick fear in the rear. And listen, we all face fear. We all know that. It doesn't matter, at least I found, it doesn't matter how long you've been in the business. It just happens. We all face fear all the time. So when she talked on page 67, Shelly talked about that fear has really a couple meanings. And FEAR has 2 meanings: forget everything and run. And I'm letting people into the room now. And I've just got to reduce my screen so I can see what I'm doing here. I do this, or face everything and rise. So the choice is you. I had never heard the acronym face everything and rise. But the choice really is yours. We all have fear. I don't care who it is and what they say. We all face fear at one time or another in different parts of our life. So F is for fear and F is for failure. And quoting her, what she says is, failure is one of the ugliest monsters out there. It can stop you from doing what you love because you are afraid. If you put yourself out there, you could be rejected, dismissed, or hurt. We all know that. And, you know, to reach out to you early on, I would love to know what examples in your life, something that was, you know, it's the monster, but you put yourself out there and you knew you could be rejected. I'll go first. Obviously, Margaret and I are franchise owners of exit offices. Margaret, was there a little bit of fear when you took the step and you laid down the money to exit corporate? A little bit of fear?
Well, yes, but the fear is when, the fear comes in expanding. I think the first round was easy for me because it was like, what the hell do I have to lose? The second one was, and the third one, and you know, it was each time. And I have to say, after the recession, that was the hardest. The fear of expanding from there was really tough. That really gripped me.
So we're talking about 2007 to 2010, somewhere in there, Margaret?
Yeah, exactly. It was like, okay, the whole market failed. And so that held me back for quite a while.
What am I going to do now? I mean, what the heck? How did this happen? You know, when I purchased the franchise in April of 2006, what I saw was from that day on a downward spiral.
Yeah.
And it was like, you've got to be kidding me. Talk about an ugly monster. That failure was an ugly monster. And I thought, I don't have any idea what I'm going to do, but we've all had fear. But hey, Marcus, how about you? What kind of fear, failure things have you actually run right into? Anything that you ran into and you had to find your way around it?
Well, I think probably when I made the decision to retire, that was a big deal. I mean, I'd been a teacher for 30 years. It's really what I knew. And then, venturing off into this new life. making those decisions, but it really helped, having Ann there and having people around you that support you. And they say, you know what, you got this, you can do this. And you just kind of make that leap and you figure out really quick whether or not it's the right thing, because things start to lay out. We call it when the stars align. And when you make that leap of faith and it might scare the dickens out of you, but you make that leap, it seems like the stars align for you and you're on the right path. So
Well, so
that's one of many examples I could share.
yeah, and so you put yourself out there,
Yeah.
and now you're in a completely different role, but you're still teaching, aren't you? I mean, you're still
Always teaching.
You're a teacher, always
And
teaching.
learning.
And
learning.
I've never been one, but I kind of look at it as kind of that's where it's at. So if you've ever been there and done that, you know about fear. So she then talks about what if on page 72. And these are all parts of fear. So Margaret, when you opened your office, what if you're not good enough? Or what if they judge you? Or what if you leave Marcus and you fail? And what if? And when we're so consumed by what ifs or whatevers. So what if is so far in the future that it really doesn't matter. But we sure embrace it, don't we, many times? And she talks about preparation always wins in the end. What I've gotten from this book, among other things, is her obligation to herself to prepare, to be prepared for whatever she's going to face. She's faced, in that first year, a number of issues, a number of problems, but she always brought something back to be prepared, because being prepared always wins in the end. We talked in our office just this week about being prepared with your presentations. Being prepared are one of the 10 landmarks of preparing a powerful presentation. So if you don't know how to get what you want, find somebody who is already doing it. You've gotten that from her book as well, right? She's used her accountability partner, her mentor, her coach. She's used other people. So if you don't know, if you have fear, if you don't know what you're doing, she suggests, if you don't know how to get what you want, find somebody who's already doing it. Working out of fears, failures, and paralysis. And she says, I think about the worst possible thing that could happen, and saying it very nicely, come on, everybody, give yourself a freaking reality check, okay? We're always thinking about the worst thing, or many of us think about the worst thing that could happen. I know it goes through all of our minds. On page 74, she scared me and the smart me. So talked about on page 79, rejection. And I loved her. I don't know if it's hers or if she borrowed the quote from somebody else, but rejection is the ugly stepsister of failure. And isn't she a bitch? Rejection is everywhere in our business. I just faced it last week, where a friend of mine, not a best friend, but a friend of mine decided to list his property with a better friend, somebody that, he's with every day. He rides motorcycles with, and they travel together, and they're better friends. But I thought for sure he's going to choose me because I'm just better, right? I think I have a better approach. He knows that I'm good at what I do, but man, did I get rejection. But it's okay, because rejection is everywhere in our business. And then she got the notice. You remember in the book, page 79, hey, Shelly, did you know your client is working with another agent? Has that ever happened to you? I mean,
Yeah.
It's happened to me, where, you're working with somebody, this wasn't exactly like that, but I can remember going way back into the early 2000s where somebody that I was working with was a truck driver, and he only came to town a couple times a month. He was out on the road. And one of the times he came in and he said, Jim, I'm so excited. I just bought a property. And I said, how did you buy a property? And, this was before the internet was really the internet. And he said, well, I was driving by a place and I saw a for sale by owner sign and I stopped. And by the way, this guy had credit problems. I worked with him trying to get things going. And I stopped and she's going to let me buy her house on contract. And so, Jim, thanks for all your help. But I got a property. So was that a little bit of rejection? I mean, I was stunned. I was hurt. I had commission breath at that moment, honestly, because I was thinking about how much money I was not going to receive. But at the same time, I was happy for him. And you've just got to be. So you've got to grab the rejection and move on. She says, number one, take ownership of your actions. What could you do differently? You know what? I bet we could talk about this and we could talk about examples. But I think I found, this isn't about me, but what I found is there's usually something that I could have done differently. There's something that I could have done, not in all cases, but maybe if I would have reached out one more time, maybe if I would have sent a personal note, maybe if I would have picked up the phone and just made a phone call. Can any of you think, Rosalina, you're early in your career, as is Marcus and Hannah. Cheryl, you've been here for 4 years. Can you think of a situation where if you would have done something, if you would have taken ownership of your actions rather than blamed, the ugly stepsister gods or whomever, that it might have changed things for you? Any of you, can you think of something where taking ownership could have turned things out differently?
So I had a guy in the neighborhood, good friend, who also is a handyman. And he called one day and said, Cheryl, we want to list our house. We don't like real estate agents. We want you to do it. Please. Went on and on, blah, blah, blah. So then the same day, I get a text from him saying, well, Shawnee doesn't want to until after the holiday's over. Okay, I understand. The very next day, I'm walking the neighborhood and there's a coming soon sign from a very fast-paced realtor who used to be in our office. Yeah, so I could have, hammered them instead of saying, oh, I understand. I could have said, now's the time. You better list, blah, blah, blah. I don't know how he got in on it. But yeah. So
Well, Cheryl, it might not necessarily be that, and I know you just used the hammered him in just as a vague term, but what if you might have said, hey, I totally understand, but we could get all the paperwork done before the holidays. Let's get all of that, and then you won't even have to think about it. And then when you're ready, you flip the switch, tell me when we're going to go active, and we'll go active. So let's get it done today. What time works? 10 or 2? Maybe that would have worked. Possibility.
Possibly.
Maybe that would have worked. So we need to take ownership of our actions, and we need to be prepared for the next time, because it's going to happen again. It's going to happen again. It always happens. Margaret, has something like that happened to you where if you would have done just one thing differently, it would have changed the outcome?
Did you say Margaret or Marcus?
Margaret.
Oh, yeah, of course, many times.
Yeah.
Let's just get together, come and see the house. Let's just, and you go and you're not prepared. You don't listing presentation ready. You don't have your presentation about you ready. You don't have anything to give them because you're just coming by to take a look at the house and chit chat about it, right?
Yep.
But I've learned on that one. I'm always prepared. There's no chit chat because walk out the door, and even if it's somebody that's when you really need to present. You need to, present to them as if they're strangers.
Yeah. It brings to mind something outside of the book, but it reminds me of a story I read about John Wooden, who was the coach of UCLA. basketball coach, won more national championships than anyone. And I guess the story was told by Bill Walton, who played for, later played in the pros for Portland, but played for UCLA during their years when they were winning championships every year. And when he said he was a full scholarship player, as all players were at UCLA, they were the blue chip athletes, the best athletes in the world to play college ball. And when he came in for his first practice, John Wooden sat him down and said, I want you all to unlace your shoes and take off your shoes. So they sat in a circle and they all took off their shoes. And he said, so boys, we're not going to be bouncing a ball around. We're not going to be doing shots. We're going to spend the day, this practice, teaching you how to put on your shoes and how to tie your shoes properly. Because if your shoe isn't tied properly, it could cause sprained ankles, it could cause other problems. And we're going to do it the same way every day that we practice and every day we play a game. And we're going to make sure that from the very foundation of the game, which is your shoe, that you're going to be ready to play. And I think Margaret kind of talks about that, where I've done the same thing. And I think Margaret kind of alluded that she went to a presentation. Yeah, we're just going to kind of talk. And she didn't have her A game with her. She didn't have her shoes laced up and she didn't have her shoes tied right because she thought it was just going to be a scrimmage, maybe just a practice. But I think for all of us, we need to be ready to play at any time and always have our presentation ready to go. And at least I found that. So I try to take everyone that I work with the same as I take friends, the same as I take people I don't know with. The presentation needs to be, I think, the same every time. Number two, she talked about consider the why. Look closely at all the actors and their actions. Number three, let yourself feel it and move on. You know, you're going to feel the pain. And she said, you know, just break something. I don't advocate that you start breaking things or hit people or kick the dog, but you need to feel the pain and you need to move on. So in chapter 7, page 85, the title of chapter 7 was Mindset, or How to Get Over Yourself Already and Buzz Your Way to Brilliance. So let's move to the next slide. Oops, I went too far. So let me just go back. There we go. So she talked about the power of visualization. Her basketball story leading to her realizing you bring about, and her practicing in the driveway, seeing that one shot, seeing that one move. And how many times should we be practicing in our driveway, so to speak? I talked yesterday on our call that get in front of your computer, record yourself doing a presentation so you can see yourself, practice your presentation, get in the driveway, so to speak, and practice it. She went on to say, page 86, her coach helped her with the power of visualization and mindset. See where the ball is going. I know I'm not a hockey guy, but I know there's a quote from Wayne Gretzky is about where he would see where the puck was going. I don't remember, but he could visualize where that puck was going. No matter how he shot, he could see the shot going in the goal. So she talked next about letting go of limiting beliefs, the fixed mindset, giving yourself 50 million excuses why you can't do something. Listen, I know there's some of you, I just know it, that have a limited mindset. It's fixed, that you're saying, I am who I am, and I can't be anyone else than who I am, and I can't do this. But the growth mindset, the difference between the fixed and the growth of grown is, yes, you can do everything you want to do. And that's from The New Psychology of Success by Carol Dweck. And yes, you can do anything you want in due time. You might not be able to do it tomorrow, but what is the expression? I think if you study any subject matter for 10,000 hours, you're likely to be an expert in that area. Now, I don't know how many hours you have to have a growth mindset, but in what your due time is. But if you give in to the growth mindset, you can. So her first year examples, and I think these may fit someone that might be here or all of us that are here. I can't make it in real estate because I don't know anyone in town. I guess we all remember she knew 4 people when she moved from Canada to Portland, Oregon. So she could have used that for an excuse. When I came here, I didn't know anyone either. And I think I used it for an excuse a long time before I actually got out of that. Number 2, money is scarce and it proves people more educated are smarter than me. And you know what? That's not the truth. There's agents that I know that are not the brightest light bulb in the box. There's no doubt about it, but they've done the things for them that are necessary, which I think is a growth mindset, that they don't know any better. Really, I've known agents who I think they're just too dumb to know that they can't do this, and they manage to do it. And so money is scarce and it proves people more educated are smarter than me. Number 3, I'm an introvert and they won't like me. Margaret, do I remember on a call somewhere that you said you're an introvert? Was that you? Or, no, not you. So you're a D personality, right?
Right, heavy D.
Okay, so you're not. Who's here? Who is here that's an introvert? You just feel that you're not comfortable when you walk into a room with other people. Anyone?
I am.
Rosalina? And so what kind of things might you do to get over that? Does anybody have any suggestions for Rosalina that, you know, she's an introvert. She's like me. I know you won't believe this, but I'm a real introvert too. It's hard for me to walk in a room of people that I don't know and put myself forward. And I just know that I've got to do it or else I'm going to sink. And so I just totally do it. When I was a musician, I was a singer, but where I was most comfortable is when I sang behind a drum set, because the drum set was my shield for my not feeling confident about myself. So I had that in front of me, which protected me. And because when I did sing without the drum set, I was uptight. Even a guitar helped me if I put a guitar in front of me. But what are some suggestions for Rosalina? What might anyone suggest on how she might break out of being an introvert? Does anyone have a suggestion? Marcus, I'm going to use you just because I'm going to pick on you, because you stood in front of classrooms for 30 years. Okay. Were you an introvert or extrovert? What are you, do you think?
I'm not a super extrovert.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely not an introvert.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot of times you kind of like visualize. I've had to do big presentations,
Okay.
and having to get in front of a lot of people. And now getting in front of students was a no-brainer. I mean, I could do that all day long, but boy, if I had to talk to a whole classroom full of adults, it was a little bit different. I think sometimes just making sure that you're, have confidence in yourself that, you're going to do just fine. Sometimes just visualizing, the whole presentation, or, visualize the worst case scenario and know that, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? What's the best thing that's going to happen? And then understand that you're going to survive it. You're going to be just fine. And most of the time, probably 99% of the time, everybody accepts you and everybody appreciates you, and it turns out to be a good experience. But I don't know that you actually change your personality from being an introvert to an extrovert. I think as you gain confidence and you understand that, I'm going to be just fine. Everything's going to be just fine. And the more you do it, the more confident you feel and the more chances you're going to take to kind of take that extra leap.
Yeah. Anyone else have any suggestions for Rosalina?
Yeah, it's more about, like Marcus says, what's the worst that could happen? One, two, it's like I say, when people, have problems with transactions or something, I said, it's okay. It's not life or death. Nobody died. Nobody's gonna die if you walk in the room. You're
Mhm.
gonna die. It's fine. You'll be just fine. So I just kind of try to say, this is not, life or death.
Mhm.
And because that's serious stuff, right?
Right.
And to me, this isn't serious stuff when it's relation. You know what I'm saying. We don't have to take it so seriously, ourselves so seriously, that we fear that. Really, is anybody looking at us? That's the first question. Are they really going to notice us or care what we say, or So you have nothing to lose.
Yeah, well, we are who we are, okay?
Mhm.
We are who we are. I just read an article this weekend about alter ego, and we get into ego in a minute here, but the alter ego, and where, as silly as it might be, when Clark Kent took his glasses off, he was Superman, right? But the weird thing about that, he actually was Superman, so the alter ego was Clark Kent. But in the case where if you could change in that kind of way and find whatever it might be to take you out of that uncomfortable position and maybe be who you're not for that moment, play the role, the alter ego role. Hannah, I'm going to pick on you for a second, and the reason I'm going to pick on Hannah is because Hannah works in the airline industry. And so I think, Hannah, do you have any introvert pieces of you? How do you feel? Are you really super confident? Or are you kind of an introvert? When you walk into a room, how do you feel?
I have always kind of considered myself like a introverted extrovert. So I like talking to people and I enjoy that, but I also get nervous and I'm kind of shy. And I grew up really shy, so it takes me kind of a minute. But I think for me, it's just remembering that people aren't thinking of you as much as you're thinking about yourself,
Oh, that's
so people aren't going to remember if you stutter or if you mess something up. It's just, you're going to remember that. And so taking a step back and thinking like you don't matter as much as maybe you think you do, not to humble myself, but I think that's always kind of helped me.
Well, and the reason I ask Hannah is because she's a flight attendant for United Airlines. So she's on furlough right now. She's going back to work here in the next couple weeks, where she'll be working 5 days on, 5 days off. But when you are on, walking the airline, when you're giving instructions, when you're doing, when you're giving that instructions to people and helping people calming themselves or making them happy, it has to take you outside of the Hannah that I know into a different role. So when you're a flight attendant, do you feel that you're playing a different role when you step onto that plane with your uniform on and the job you have to do?
I think so. Yeah, I think it's just more, we have more, we're in more of a position of power in that situation, I think, and I have more information than anybody else would, and I know, I'm up there every day, so I'm comfortable, and a lot of people aren't. So I think it's just, you have to be calm and prepared, and I think it's kind of a different experience than just everyday normal me, for sure. Yeah.
But you see how it correlates with real estate? You're in the power of position and you're in the power of information. And with that power, it can take you right out from, Rosalina, wherever you might be when you walk into a presentation where you might not be as confident, but no, you're the person of power. You're the person that has the information. But then going back, it's all about knowing how to present yourself and the power in the presentation. So let's move on. So, and another one was women don't belong in business. I mean, good God. When I got into real estate years ago, there were a handful of women in the real estate business. And, Now look at what real estate is. Now look at everyone here is a part of Exit. I mean, give me a break. Our company is operated and run, and the brains of this operation are women. And it isn't men. And so the old women don't belong in business is way gone. And that should never, ever, for us, especially at Exit, that should never hold us back, because I think we've really seen the power of women. And so let's move on. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide if I'm able to do that. Looks like I might. Okay, so next was Shelly was talking about limiting beliefs, and she was allowing limited beliefs alter her behavior and her reactions. So, you know, you guys, gals, we need to get rid of limiting beliefs. She said, once you woke up to it, you're already starting to shift your perspective. Once you woke up to it, or once you woke up to it, starting to shift the perspective. Couple other things. Money is scarce. Excuse me. Became money is abundant. Now this is all talking about, you know, writing down your affirmations. The next one, I don't know anyone, became I'm loved and admired by my sphere, which is growing every day. Affirmations helped her get through this, where she said, I can and I will. I can and I will became her new belief. And for those of you on this call or watching a recording, you know, Exit has something, even if you're not part of Exit, called Prompter. Prompter is a free app that you can download to your phone, prompter.ca. Prompter is a place where you can write your affirmations. Affirmations are sent to you from Exit. It is free, and it's done every so many days that you go through your affirmations, and helps you build this confidence where Shelly, although she didn't have this, I'm presuming, got to I can and I will. So just a suggestion of someplace, something you might look at. Then page 90, find the frequency. And so she talked on page 90 about Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich book. I would suggest to everyone to find the book Think and Grow Rich. As a matter of fact, the book I think was written in 1937, and it wasn't copyrighted in a way that you can download the book for free. You can find it on the internet for free because it was never protected. And so the book from Napoleon Hill talks about the law of attraction and frequency. And Shelly was desperate for change. So the things that you'll read in Think and Grow Rich may seem ridiculous. She said the book was ridiculous. But she broke the ceiling. And what the book talks about is we're all made up. The world is made up of protons, electrons, and neutrons. And part of success, which Napoleon Hill points out in his book, he talks about that success is yours, and here's how you do it. And here's how some of the most successful people in the world have done it. So I was so taken by Think and Grow Rich years ago that for me, and this isn't about me, but actually once I'm on to my next role, I'm going to finish what I started with a book using the 13 principles Napoleon Hill talks about in his book, and I'm going to shape them for specifically how each of his 13 principles work for real estate agents or can work for real estate agents. And so I would recommend, as Shelly did, to get a hold of books that talk about the law of attraction and change and giving gratitude, the things that Napoleon Hill and many others talked about. On page 93, she talked about high buzzing. Surround yourself around like-minded people. How important is that? One thing I try to maintain in my office is that the people that are here are not the people that have necessarily proved themselves in the arena, so to speak. They're not the big, huge producers of real estate. In fact, my focus is more on people that I want to surround myself around to be with. So when I'm here and when I go home, I'm happy. I feel good. I feel like I contributed and that the people that are around me are good. And people that come here that are bad apples seem to just disappear. And sometimes it happens after a year or a few years and you finally, I think what I found is that people, when they come in, they're looking for something, but if they're looking for something different than what I have, if it's all about chasing the money, if it's all about commissions, if it's all about them, they remove themselves from us. And so I surround myself around like-minded people. So everyone except for Margaret is someone that is in our office today, at least it's on this call. Margaret, how do you operate your office? How do you surround yourself around like-minded people?
It's more about, yeah, I mean, I'm the same way. Our office is that way too, where people are like-minded, open-minded, and anybody with any high ego pretty much doesn't fit in.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more about, yes, helping each other and being grateful. I always thank my agents for choosing to be with us, and they could go anywhere, but they choose to be here, and I appreciate that and them for it. And I let them know that. So
Yeah.
yeah, it is about feeling good about who is with you on the journey.
Mm-hmm.
Versus, no, I mean, I hire people that are more coachable, open-minded, and or concerned about people.
Yeah.
Good job.
Nothing more important. And then, thank you, Margaret. And then Shelly talked about practicing gratitude and stop gossiping immediately. That's hard for me, but stop gossiping immediately. It doesn't do anybody any good. Repeating your goals. Now listen, if you don't even have goals, it's pretty hard to repeat them, right? So you need to have a place where you want to go. You need to know where you want to be. Why are you in this business in the first place? I mean, what brought you here? If it was simply, I think I can make a lot of money, that could be one. If it's, I can't do anything else, that could be another. But think about what your goals are. What is it that you want for yourself? Do you have them written down? You have a plan? And I think she talked about repeating her goals. She definitely had a plan. And then talked about quieting down once a day, finding time to just, I guess, collect yourself in ways. I generally will do this in the morning when I wake up and when I get in bed. It's quiet time, and so it's my quiet time once a day. I think we all need quiet time. So that was on page 93. Let's move to page 94. And here was a quote from Napoleon Hill that she pointed out. There are no limitations to the mind except those we acknowledge. Both poverty and riches are the offspring of thought. If you're looking for something to cut out and put on the wall or the mirror in your bathroom, maybe this is a quote, because there's no limitations to the mind except those that we acknowledge. Both poverty and riches are the offspring of thought. Great quote from the book. So let's move to chapter 8. And chapter 8 was about the ego, friend or foe, or how not to self-talk yourself stupid. Man, I think we all are guilty of that sometimes. You can just self-talk yourself in whatever it is. And she talked about the singing contest and where she was prodded by her friends to get up and sing in the bar. And of course, she had too much to drink. But I think that was kind of her alter ego in a way. So she called it her shadow self taking over and just going for it. Now, I think alcohol helped her position herself to go for it that night in that bar, doing karaoke, and maybe in future karaoke contests, as she talks about. But think about what self-talk, has put you in the position in your shadow self from just going for it. Okay, just doing something that you never thought you would do. In our office, separate of the book, but I think maybe of interest to someone. Marcus and I are going to put together a group in our office to just kind of a mastermind, if you will, but more of just sitting around the table and talking about an idea that I got initially from Inman News, from a presentation that was on YouTube by a guy by the name of Jimmy Burgess. Jimmy Burgess is a realtor who works at Berkshire Hathaway. And he put together a different way to present a CMA. Okay, so let's just talk about that for a second, if we could, since we're talking real estate in this book. The usual thing for a CMA, that how many times have we seen this? I will provide a free CMA for you, call this number. Think of the countless ads that you've seen for a person to do a CMA for you. What Jimmy Burgess put out there was doing an unsolicited video CMA, to do it in a complete different way, where instead of sending a card to somebody that says, would you like to know the value of your property? Give me a call. What if you did something different where get your free unsolicited CMA, how did we say, Marcus? Digitally, or what did we say as we're getting started with this?
I think we thought electronically.
Electronically. Okay, so now it removes the typical CMA thing that I think people are barfing over. I mean, give me a break. How many times have you seen it? A free market analysis, a free CMA. But what if we did something different outside of the box? Kind of like the alter ego, kind of like our shadow selves, just going for it, and trying to present something that is so different than what anybody else is doing, and thinking out, how can we do this? What might it look like? How much will it cost? What do we need to put something like this together to be the first company in our area to do something like this? And this, we're going to go for it, right? And you know what, Marcus, and anybody else that joins us, it might totally suck. I have no idea. It may not work. It might be total crap. I have no idea. But at least we're going to go for it. Okay, we're going to spend a little bit of time. We're going to brainstorm. I'm going to ask people in our office, come on in, let's talk about this. I might reach out to Rick DeLuca and say, hey, what do you think about this? You know what? Rick might say, I think you're full of crap. I don't think it's a good idea at all, but that's okay. I'm going to go for it. And I'm going to try to elicit the help of people around me, people like Margaret and people like Hannah and Cheryl, all of us. How could we do something so totally different that might help it? So I'm going on, but this is just going for it. So write down a list of negative talk. This is what Shelly suggests. Write down a list of negative self-talk statements and limiting beliefs. I'm not good enough. My presentation is not as good as everybody else's. I'm too fat, I'm too old, I'm too ugly, whatever things that you have, write down the negative self-talk statements and the limiting beliefs, and then take your ego and move forward. Just stop all the negative talk. Confidence and ego are not the same thing. You've got to build confidence, and your ego will take you to that place. So I think that's a great idea. I've never done it before. Actually, before I did it on Sunday, writing down negative self-talk and limiting beliefs. And then only then, I think, can you address what those problems are. So there's nothing I can do about the way I look. I guess I could get my hair cut better, or I could shave my mustache off or something. there's things that you can and can't do. So look at the negative self-talk and your limiting beliefs. Then a powerful technique she talked about on page 101, excuse me, was a ritual to get her high vibe and quiet her ego, the ritual. So every year she selects a song that inspires her and she sends this to her coach. She plays it before every single meeting, every pop by, in every open house. Her song that she chose is White Flag by a group called Joseph. I looked up Joseph. I listened to the song, as a matter of fact. 3 women, 3 maybe powerful women that wrote this song, White Flag. Did any of you go and look it up on YouTube?
Not yet.
Huh? Did you, Marcus? No one? Do it. It's a strong song, and it talks about these women were not going to wave the white flag. They weren't giving up. They were going to move forward with whatever it is they were after. So her song is White Flag. Maybe you can find a song. One book that I suggest to everybody, and I did this years ago because I've always been a reader of John Gordon books. If you're not familiar with John Gordon, he writes short books, usually fable books, talking about how to get success and so forth. And one of his books we talked about here at the office, for those that have been here for a while, this would probably be Cheryl, is One Word, right? And I know, Margaret, you probably heard of this with Exit. Tammy Bonnell is a big fan of One Word. I'm not sure, I'm not trying to take credit for anything. It is what it is. But I think I sent Tammy Bonnell that book years ago, and I think she adopted it into believing in one word. So whether it's a song, whether it's a word, by the way, does anybody have a word for 2021? Does anybody have a word that is their word of the year that they're trying to focus on? Anybody? No, Cheryl? I'm surprised because I know you read the book. Anyone have one word?
Mine is growth.
Okay. And so by thinking of that word, by adopting that word, by talking about that word, by looking at the word every day, I think Margaret has a mindset that she wants to grow. Now, I don't know if it's for herself, for her office, whatever it might be, her word that she's focused on is growth. My word is transformation, because I'm going through a transformation in my life. Not a sexual transformation, just a business transformation, in case you want to know. So I'm going through a transformation. I'm not going to be a woman or anything like that, but I'm transforming into something else. So my word is transformation. So think about what Shelly did. She picked a song, White Flag by Joseph. Listen to it. It's a good song. And so she said, whether or not you do this, find something to knock you out of a negative state or mindset. Think of whatever it is. If it's picking up a book, if it's running, if it's mountain biking, if it's skiing, if it's whatever, find whatever it is that'll knock you out of that mindset. Get control of it. On page 103, she talks about get control of it, or it will be used against you. So one of the quotes that she had was, there's a way for everyone to get what they want her. I'm not sure I typed this right. There's a way for everyone to get what they want. It's not a me against you situation. It's about let's work together. Mm-hmm. Another quote, collaborating is always more powerful than digging your heels in just because you want to win. And this was when she was talking about negotiation. Collaborating is always more powerful than digging your heels in just because you want to win. That's why, Shepherd the book, I suggest to all of you that before you actually show a property, you really do call the other agent and you try to work so you are a familiar name and you find something that's common between the two of you. So when you call back to negotiate, you've already collaborated before you really start collaborating. Most agents wait until they have to talk about the hard stuff, about the inspection and the items on the inspection, or about the type of earnest money or the closing date, or so many other things that happen in our offers. What if you collaborate before you actually show the property and you build some kind of camaraderie before you have to? So collaborating is always more powerful than digging your heels in just because you want to win. Mere obstinance does not benefit your client a single iota. And so we got to think, whenever we're negotiating, this is not about us. It's never about us. It's about our clients. And then she talked about the things to remember when negotiating, page 105. There's power in silence. That's difficult for me. Number 2, you give a little to get a lot. Number 3, digging in your heels is for amateurs. Number 4, ask yourself what it's worth. Speak with your clients in the same manner. What's the argument really worth? Okay. Number 5, keep control of your client's expectations. Number 6, smile. This isn't heart surgery. Think of honey versus vinegar. Number 7, negotiating isn't about winning or losing. Keep that end goal in mind. It's about negotiating. It's about getting the very best that you can for your client in our business, is the way I see it. Number 8, don't take it personally. This isn't about you. It just is not about you. And then finally, she talked about filter advice and your shadow self, page 105, 106. Is the advice in line with who I am as a person when I'm giving advice? Is the advice in line with my business plan and objectives? Is that advice from someone's shadow self projecting onto me? And then she talked about her logo. And she said, hey, I created a pretty cool logo. Now, I actually could not find the logo she spoke about with the triangle in the book. At least I don't think this is it. It could be shaped as a triangle. I can see that to an artist, but this is her logo. This morning, Cheryl put her logo, showed me that she put her logo on a card that she's sending out. It's really, really professional. And so I think, Shelly created the logo because I think she could feel that now it's real. It really is real. I'm a professional and I am that agent. And so that's chapter 6, 7, and 8 this week. And so for next week, we're just going to get a couple minutes early, We're going to be talking about chapters 9, 10, and 11. And 12 really is not a chapter in our book. Chapter 12 is really references, guides, and templates, which we're certainly going to touch on, but I don't think it's going to really take our conversation. So we're going to be able to finish up next week. And so instead of 5 weeks, we'll just be 4 weeks. I hope that's okay with everybody. It's going to give everybody the freedom to maybe take some of what's in this book and adapt it into your business. And so take a look at and read 9, 10, and 11. I think next Monday is Memorial Day. So I hope you all have a great Memorial Day weekend. And then we'll be right back on Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock. And if you know anyone else that signed up for the call, but they're not here today, maybe give them a little nudge, remind them to come back for the final 3 chapters that we're going to talk about. And are there any last comments anybody would like to add this morning? Because we got just a couple minutes. Anything that I've missed that I should have talked about or pointed out?
I just want to say, like the first topic with the fear, it's right on point with me right now. So I appreciate the reminder and what I need to do to overcome that.
Well, we're all here to help you in any way that we can, Rosalina. And so all of us are here to help you in any way. And listen, you are a fantastic individual, a beautiful person, and there is no reason that fear should get in the way of anything. Um, we just have to work harder to build confidence, I think, and we all can help you do that. So thank you, Rosalind. I'm glad you're here.
Hey, so Rosalina, one time Jim told me of what he does when he goes into a room full of people and he feels uncomfortable. He always looks for someone else who's feeling that same way. And it's true, if you look around, there is, and you can strike up a conversation, and then the next thing you know, I mean, I've tried it too, and it really does help a lot because you started, there's always more than one, and feel good in that room.
Thanks, Cheryl. Yeah, that's it. For years. So when I walk into, especially Chamber of Commerce events, big networking events, and what usually happens is you walk in and I'd never want to be the first one there. Good God, I wouldn't want to be the first. But when I go, there's usually little clusters of groups, little groups of 3 or 4, and they're all smiling and laughing, many times having a drink, and they're talking about something. And my feeling is, God, I don't fit in. I know if I walk up to that group, they're going to be talking about golf. I know squat about golf, and I'm going to be the biggest stooge in the group. And so instead of walking into a group, I look for the one person like me who's an introvert who might feel uncomfortable. They're there. They got to the room, which is half the battle. They got to the room, but they're standing alone. And I know the feeling. I know that feeling that there's a little bit of embarrassment, that I'm the only one here that's alone. Everybody else has friends and they're in a group. So I've always made a point to go to that person, not out of sympathy for them, but out of sympathy for me, to really be able to embrace that person and bring them out of whatever shell that they're in. And so it's not hard to start a conversation with somebody when it's just you and them. It can be awkward, but anything can be awkward. So yeah, sure. I do it so naturally that I don't even think about it anymore. That's just who I am. Because when I walk into the room, I am not the it. I'm not the person everybody turns around and looks at. Or if they are doing that, it's not because they admire me. It might be for another reason. But so I think that's a good point, to always try to reach out to somebody who might be feeling just like you, and then to be able to connect. So, hey, everyone, I'm so glad you were here for
Thank you.
this time today. And we'll get together next week, next Tuesday. Have a great Memorial Day. Celebrate hard, have a lot of fun, and see you here on Tuesday.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hey, thanks.
Jim.
Bye.